Santa didn't come, no presents for me, said little girl. What hell's angel did on Christmas Eve? The little girl stood at the edge of the sidewalk on Christmas Eve morning, her breath visible in the cold air, her hands tucked deep inside sleeves that were too thin for winter, and her eyes fixed on the ground as if it had already disappointed her too many times. The words she had said moments earlier lingered heavily in the air, not spoken loudly, not meant for attention, but heavy enough to stop a grown man in his tracks. Santa had not come, there were no presents, and in that quiet, ordinary sentence was a kind of sadness that did not belong to a child so young. It was the kind of sadness that only comes from learning too early that the world does not always show up when it promises to. If you believe that people deserve second chances, that kindness can appear in the most unexpected places, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel Only Kindness, because stories like this exist to remind us that even the hardest hearts can still feel. Her name was Maribel, and she was 7 years old. She lived with her mother in a narrow apartment above a closed laundromat, the kind of place where the paint peeled no matter how often you tried to fix it, and the heat only worked when it felt like it. Christmas morning had come and gone without ceremony. No tree, no wrapping paper, no sound of excitement. Just daylight slipping through a cracked window and the quiet understanding between a tired mother and a small child that this year, like the last one, would be about getting through rather than celebrating. Maribel's mother had sent her outside to get some air while she tried to stretch a single loaf of bread into something that looked like breakfast. Maribel had nodded, pulled on her sweater, and stepped into the cold, carrying a hope she did not know how to let go of. Across the street, leaning against a black motorcycle parked near the curb, stood a man named Caleb Rowe. He was 38 years old, broad-shouldered, with a weathered face shaped by years of hard choices and long roads. His leather jacket was scuffed and worn, not for style but for survival, and his hands bore scars that spoke of a past he rarely explained. People crossed the street when they saw him. Parents pulled their children closer. The name of the group he rode with carried a reputation that followed him everywhere, louder than his actual voice. Caleb had learned to live with that. He had learned not to correct people when they decided who he was before he ever spoke. Caleb had not planned to be there that morning. He had ridden into the neighborhood to drop off a small envelope at a nearby shelter, the kind of quiet habit he never told anyone about. Christmas was complicated for him. It reminded him of mistakes, of years spent choosing anger over connection, and of a brother he had lost to the same road he now rode. He was about to start his engine and leave when he heard Maribel's voice, small and flat, not dramatic, not begging, just honest. Santa had not come. There were no presents. Something in Caleb shifted. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but enough that he stayed where he was. He watched the girl standing alone, her shoes worn thin at the soles, her shoulders slightly hunched as if she had already learned how to make herself smaller. He recognized that posture. He had worn it himself once, long before the jacket, long before the bike, back when he was just a kid who learned early not to expect too much. Caleb did not approach her right away. He knew how he looked. He knew how people reacted. He waited, watching as Maribel kicked at a patch of frozen dirt, her gaze drifting toward a storefront window decorated with faded winter decals. Inside, there were no customers, no warmth, just reflections. Caleb took a step, then another, careful not to startle her. He stopped a few feet away, lowering himself slightly so he did not tower over her. He did not speak. He simply waited, letting his presence be quiet instead of imposing. Maribel noticed him then. Her eyes widened at first, instinctively wary, but something in his stillness softened the moment. She did not run. She did not cry. She just looked at him, studying the lines on his face, the heavy jacket, the motorcycle behind him. She had seen men like him before, but never this close, never this calm. Caleb nodded once, a simple acknowledgement, and then looked away, giving her space, as if to say he was not there to take anything from her. Time passed in a strange, suspended way. Cars moved in the distance. A bus hissed as it stopped and went again. Finally, Caleb reached into the inside pocket of his jacket. His fingers brushed against the envelope he had not yet delivered, and something else he had almost forgotten was there. Earlier that week, almost on impulse, he had bought a small gift from a roadside store. He had not known why. He told himself it was for a donation bin, or maybe for the shelter kids. He had never decided. Now, holding it in his hand, he realized it had been waiting for this moment. He knelt slowly, keeping his movements deliberate, non-threatening. He placed the small package on the ground between them, wrapped simply, without ribbons or shine. It was not expensive, it was not impressive, but it was something. Then he stood back, hands open, and took a step away, leaving the choice to her. Maribel stared at the package as if it might disappear if she blinked. She did not reach for it right away. Years of quiet disappointment had taught her that hope could be cruel. But curiosity won, and she knelt, touching the paper lightly, then pulling it closer. When she looked up, Caleb was already turning back toward his motorcycle, giving her the dignity of privacy. He did not wait for thanks. He did not need it. From the doorway above the laundromat, Maribel's mother watched everything. Her heart pounded as she saw the man, the bike, the exchange. Fear came first, sharp and fast, followed by confusion. Then she saw her daughter's face as Maribel unwrapped the gift, and fear gave way to something else entirely. Inside the paper was a small stuffed animal and a book, worn but clean, its corners softened by previous hands. Nothing extravagant, everything meaningful. Maribel hugged the toy to her chest as if it were fragile, as if joy itself might break. Caleb started his motorcycle, the engine rumbling low and steady. He did not look back again. He rode away slowly, blending into the ordinary movement of the day, just another rider on another street. But behind him, something had changed. Not the neighborhood, not the world, but the weight of the day itself. Maribel spent the rest of Christmas Eve carrying that stuffed animal everywhere. She showed it to her mother, to the cracked mirror in their bathroom, to the empty room as if it were a friend who had finally arrived. The book was read aloud in the afternoon light, her mother's voice steady despite the ache in her chest. It was not a perfect day. There were still worries, still bills, still uncertainty. But there was also proof, undeniable and real, that kindness could come from places people warned you about. For Caleb, the ride felt different. The road seemed quieter, the cold less biting. He stopped at the shelter and left the envelope as planned, then sat on his bike for a long moment before leaving. He thought about his brother, about the choices that had led him here, about the way one small act had shifted something he had believed about himself for a long time. He was not beyond redemption. He was not only his past. He was still capable of doing something that mattered. As daylight faded, Maribel placed the stuffed animal beside her pillow, careful and deliberate. She did not say that Santa had come after all. She did not rewrite the story to make it magical. She simply understood, in the quiet way children do, that someone had seen her. And sometimes, that was enough. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness still exists in unexpected forms, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who might need them today. Before this story ends, we have one small request. Please comment below with a single word that represents what this story made you feel. Your words matter, and they may be the reason someone else chooses kindness tomorrow. Christmas Eve ended the way it began, quietly, without fireworks or spectacle. But in one small apartment and on one long stretch of road, something unseen but powerful had taken root. A child learned that the world could surprise her in good ways. A man learned that even after years of hard roads, his hands could still be used to give. And somewhere between them, in the simple exchange of a small gift on a cold morning, the meaning of Christmas found a way to exist, not as a promise kept by magic, but as a choice made by a human being.